You're listening to the Intellect podcast, community and conversation for independent thinkers. Now here are your hosts, Joel Sexton and Daniel Sanchez.
Hey guys, it's Daniel and Joel. We are here today to talk about something that is dear to our heart, near and dear to our heart. And it's a topic that we talk about a lot.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of our lifestyle. It's like in the realm of lifestyle business, right?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, this is where I believe this is where things are going anyway. Mm-hmm. And some people have jumped on the bandwagon earlier than others.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about today is two concepts. We're just going to kind of throw these terms out there. These terms have been used by others before. We don't 100% agree with their definition of it, but we just couldn't really think of better words for this other than Neo-Agrarianism and Neo-Renaissance.
Yeah.
Sort of.
So what's neo mean? Just
Neo's like new.
New? Okay.
New.
So neo-Nazi's a new Nazi?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not the old Nazi, it's new Nazi.
A new Nazi. New and improved.
Right, exactly. 2.0. Agrarianism 2.0. How's that?
There we go. Okay. Now that we got that definition out of the way. So we are always talking about YouTube, internet business, all this stuff, right? We believe that that's where you should be building your business is online and things like that.
Right.
But a lot of people, when they're talking about doing these things, they're always thinking of like, oh, if I just throw this stuff up online, people will buy it. It will be easily bought and I'll make some money on the side and it'll just be effortless money, basically, is what people think.
I think passive income means easy money.
Right.
Passive doesn't equal easy.
Right. Yeah, and it's not, you don't just throw something up there and make money. Some people do. Right. Like every once in a while, my wife will throw a link out for an Amazon link and she'll make a couple bucks off of it. You know,
right. She
doesn't have a website. She just throws it up on our Facebook page.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So that's easy money.
Yeah,
it's doable.
It is.
But that's not a business.
No,
what we're talking about.
Yeah, we're talking about something that's sustainable. Agrarianism. Now, let's look at what agrarianism is to give this whole thing some context. So, what was agrarianism? That was basically a farming culture, more or less, right? But not just people farming and there it is. That's the extent of it. It was an entire belief system, a way of living. It was a lifestyle that encouraged, being conservative with what you have, being a wise steward of what you have, valuing hard work, valuing community and family coming together to work together to produce more than just the sum of their parts.
Right. Yeah, and so today when you hear people like Pat Flynn just did recently an episode where he had his whole family come on to the episode. Okay. And all of his kids right now are like under 7, I think.
Right? They're pretty young.
Or maybe they're like 10 and under.
Are they already that old?
I think his oldest son's pretty old, but anyway.
Okay.
So they're still young. They're not going to be running any blogs or anything like that. But he's got this idea of his family being involved in his business.
Right.
And that's how I want to do it. I've got my coffee shop coming up. I want to build that online business and presence. And I want my daughters to be helping me, keep the shop. That's how I did it when I was a kid. I worked with my dad in my shop.
Yeah, your family, where you come from, is very much operates like that.
Yeah, it's a family business. I mean, it's a family business, right? Yeah. But it's my dad runs his shop out of his backyard. If it was a farm, it'd be like kind of like a farm, right? Farms are ran on the house. The house is on the farm. The farm, it's all together.
Work and
living off the land.
Yep.
Jazz like that.
Yep.
And I mean, what? How do you feel about it? I mean, like, what's your ideal business type thing? I mean, maybe your kids aren't going to go out on the field with you to fix servers or whatever, but
so not exactly. Maybe, I don't know, however they want to make some money, I guess. But if they're interested in that, what I see for me isn't so much necessarily kids. So I do IT work. I'm an IT consultant and handle problems big and small, jobs big and small. But I don't know that my kids will be out there doing that same exact thing. But what I do want to teach them is I want to teach them technology, how to leverage technology, and how to think in an independent mindset of a job or something like that, where you are depending on somebody else to provide you with your sustenance, with your ability to get by.
Yeah.
Not being a dependent on, you know, a single person or a small group or something like that, but to be able to produce more than you consume as a lifestyle.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's that idea of being involved with your kids enough to teach them the lifestyle that you want to impose on them. Just kidding.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some amount of imposition when it comes to an agrarian lifestyle. Like, kids that grow up on a farm have no choice but to work on that farm. So
Right.
But
I mean, we have a little bit more options with the way things are going today, and that's
exactly.
also to say not that everything was super great back then,
right.
Because you know they didn't always have the technology to be safe or healthy or have access to stuff.
I'm definitely going to teach my kids to monitor servers and to answer phones.
Okay.
So yeah, now that I think about it, sorry.
No, that's cool.
Kind of jump back to that, but now that I think about it, yeah, they're going to learn some of that because, yeah,
That would
they're
cut
forced
back on
to.
that thing.
Right.
Cool.
They're going to work the farm, the server farm.
Right. So what happened after the the agrarian age, right, is you had your industrial age.
Right.
And then today, our information age or audience age or however you want to call it.
Right.
So the industrial age was kind of like, I think it was one of the more detrimental things on our society, honestly.
From a societal standpoint, yeah, definitely.
Like technology, it advanced it.
Right.
Lifestyles, you can have a more comfortable lifestyle.
Right.
But like sociology, stuff like that. Did I nail that word? No.
Sociologically?
There we go. That was the one I was trying for. And I was like, oh, my tongue's already getting twisted. I better stop now. That stuff, like the parents basically now both work. The kids are raised by the government.
Right.
Things like that.
Takes a village.
It takes a village, but now it's also like, but without the parents.
Right. Takes a village of government workers to raise your children.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that's where she was going with that when she said it. But anyway.
Oh, with that person? Yeah.
Yes.
That original quote.
Yes. The OG on that one.
That's what I'm thinking too. So anyway, what I'm saying is, for me, I don't like that. That's why, you know, a lot of people are frustrated with this. They want to be able to have their own business so that they can be home with their kids more often. A lot of parents, both parents have to work, which means no parents ever home, like just never home.
Right.
It's part of the do is with the lifestyle that people are living today, and part of it has to do with the wages going down and just kind of being
right. And consumerism drives a lot of it, right? Because we feel like we have to have all these things. We have to have, you know, the 200 channel cable package and the fancy car with all the fancy gadgets in it, and we got to have the newest phone. Well, it takes money to create that stuff. And past a point, you got to live in a certain neighborhood, so your kids go to a certain school and all that. So both parents end up working to have this stuff that they feel like is like the minimum. So you end up, a minimum lifestyle requires way more time than a single person has.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so even without that, like, I don't have, we've never had cable. We've always had internet because it's part of my job. It was always something to do with the internet. So we've always had internet plugged into our house. We only have one car, so we don't have a lot of expenses with our car.
That's cool.
We have cut back on a lot. Like, I don't buy the latest iPhone or stuff like that. I have some pretty sweet electronics, but there always have been with my job, related to my job. So usually my job pays for the electronics, and then I get them.
Right. You buy them as assets, not as liabilities. So use rich dad parlance.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I'm pretty frugal, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make. And I sometimes I think, well, why is it that we're so frugal, and these other people I know, like, they buy iPhones, they buy all this stuff, and like they're fine, but they, you know, and they're not even making as much as me, like per dollar wage. And I always think, what's the deal there? And then I remember that even though these people are getting paid less, they have two people in the family doing the job.
Right.
And I'm the only person in my family doing it. My wife is at home raising the kids.
Right.
So we don't have,
we do it as well.
We don't have a double income. So that's why I realized too that it's not only the things that you want in your house, but it also has something to do with like how you want your family raised.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those are the sorts of things money can't buy, right?
Right.
And they really pay the biggest dividends in the long run. We do the same sort of thing. I'm the primary breadwinner in our house, as you would say it. My wife makes a little money here and there doing different things, but it's her own business stuff too. So she does photography. She used to do some blogging and make a little money doing that sort of stuff. But yeah, we do the same sort of thing, and it's a sacrifice sometimes because you don't always have the latest awesome thing. But what it does is when you start to see those latest awesome things, when you pick the one or two that you do want, it forces you to start to think smarter to get those things instead of, I'll just work more hours, or I'll just do this, I'll just do that. It changes the way that you look at money and your time and the relation thereof.
Yeah.
So it's a more challenging way to live, but it's more rewarding, and I think it makes you a smarter person in the long run.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what we look at as a neo-agrarian lifestyle, is that we're not working 40-hour a week, which is very industrial age stuff, 40 hours a week kind of stuff, although I am right now working for my dad 40 hours a week. But we're not doing... Normally, when we think of it, we're trying to keep away from 40 hours a week.
Right.
We're not worrying about our bosses firing us.
Right.
Although I am. No, okay. So let's say we get our goal where we're working for ourselves. We have our own hours. We do things that need to get done. Our job, we don't go to our job. We just are our job almost. You know what I mean? Like we just make things happen.
You become a personal brand.
Yeah, I don't think any farmer would ever say, "Oh, my job is that I'm a farmer." You know what I mean? They just are a farmer.
It's a lifestyle, not a job.
Yeah, exactly. They don't have 40-hour weeks. I mean, they don't have a 8-hour day. Like, they got to milk the cow every day, because if they don't milk the cow is going to be very upset the next day. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, like I feel like sometimes that's how we are going to be. Is like our jobs. Like your job, especially if someone calls you and they got a problem on a Saturday, you're gonna have to deal with it.
I do, right? It's not always the funnest thing, but the beauty is, so when I worked for somebody else doing this sort of thing, sometimes that'd be the case anyway.
Yeah, same here.
I was on call. Server went down on Saturday. The people need it. Well, it's got to be back up by Monday. Well, here you go. No extra compensation. Whenever you work for yourself, you can choose those situations that you put yourself in. I can choose not to take on a customer that has, the sort of uptime requirements that are going to require me to live a lifestyle I don't want to live. It's up to me. No, yeah. I'm not told, well, we got this customer, now you have to do this.
Yeah.
So it gives you options.
Does. And a big part of what we believe is that like our services aren't always going to be local.
Right.
Right. I mean, they can be like coffee. I can sell coffee all day around New Mexico for sure. And that's how I'm going to get my start. But and eventually I want to be able to sell it online as well. And so I'm going to need the internet. Right? To do that. I want my lifestyle to be where I roast coffee, I enjoy the coffee, I make it a craft and an art.
Right.
And I do that as a job that I love. Like people always say, oh, you can't have a hobby and a job because you'll end up hating your hobby. But I believe that that's because of the E-Myth, basically.
Right.
If you haven't read that book, check out the E-Myth. We'll have a link to it in the description of this thing. But it's basically this idea where people become entrepreneurs and they end up running themselves into the ground,
right,
rather than their job actually supporting them.
Yeah, I go both ways on E-Myth. I think it's true, but I think E-Myth is this thing that sat in between an industrial revolution way of approaching work and on the cusp of the Neo-Agrarian thing. So E-Myth really applies if you're the type of person who your work that you do still, even if you work for yourself, trades time for money.
Right.
If you create a passive income style business, then E-Myth doesn't necessarily apply the same way.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing to read if you are looking to open like a retail shop or a consulting type of thing. But if you're looking to create products that sell themselves, it's not necessarily
Yeah, you might
applicable.
not fall into the E-Myth thing.
Right. So it's good to know about, but know that it doesn't apply to everything equally.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the same with 4 Hour Week.
Right.
I mean,
any one of those books.
Tom,
honestly.
or not Tom. What's his name? Tim
Ferriss.
Tim Ferriss. I was going to call him Tim Schmoyer. Tim Ferriss. I mean, he works a lot. He likes to work a lot more than 4 hours a week.
Right.
He says it's a 4 hour week because he's got these principles and ideas that can get to where you have a small business running on 4 hours.
And that was the one the book packager and publisher said, yeah, let's do that one.
Yeah, exactly.
He wanted flashy. Did you know what he wanted to name it? Drug dealing for fun and profit, I think.
Oh, okay.
Something about drug dealing.
That's funny.
Yeah. And they were like,
it wouldn't have been a very best-selling for sure. 4 Hour Work Week, that's a bestseller. That's like, oh, sweet. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I don't want to work. I want to work 4 hours. Cool.
He played with less than that, and it was like, no, it's completely unbelievable. He played with more than that, and they were like, that doesn't quite sound as appealing, but 4 was like the magic number. They're like, yes, do 4. So they came about that. Shh. That's a loud bird.
No burping. I mean, birding.
Is that what a bird sounds like when it burps?
No. I'm pretty sure the birds can't burp.
No, actually they can't. I know they can't.
Yeah, so this whole 4 hour work week is basically, I think it's the E-Myth and the I was going to email E-Myth, but it's called the I-Myth. The I-Myth. The internet myth that you think that you can just get online, put up a YouTube video, you'll get 1 million fans, and all you have to do for... Yeah, I like that.
That's brilliant.
We need to make that book, the I-Myth.
Okay, sorry. Keep going.
Internet fame is the myth.
Right.
So you can't just get online, put up a video once a week, get 1 million followers, and be rich. Right. Even people that do that don't make enough money to live off of.
Yeah, not necessarily. It's not a guaranteed deal.
Yeah, it's not. You have to work at it. You have to get brand deals. You have to look for stuff. You have to look for content. You have to stay relevant. I mean, all this takes tons of research and energy. You have to be good to your fans. It doesn't come easy.
Yeah. Yeah, being an internet media personality is not an easy, sustainable career path.
No.
Long term, it's even so. Out of the percentage of people that make it at all, what percentage of those people? I'd be interested in numbers on this. What percentage of those people actually can make it a long term career? Some people make it and they make a bunch of money in a short amount of time, but how many of those people have made this last for 10 years?
And that takes a lot more talent.
Right.
That takes a understanding how to brand yourself type of thing.
Right.
There's tons of people that become
wow.
Now all the animals are freaking out. There's tons of people that have put out one movie, right? They put out one movie and then they disappear off the face of the earth. You find out later that they're working behind the scenes on movie sets, but they're no longer famous. They're no longer making millions of dollars per movie or whatever. You find people that do one-hit wonder music albums, you know what I mean?
Right.
They're not in the music industry anymore because they just couldn't sustain it.
Right.
It's not that they don't have talent to be a musician or an actor. It's just they didn't have talent to manage themselves to get those jobs. Or they had a bad manager. Maybe it was a problem.
Yeah, it's possible. Management of some sort. Yeah, getting to that point and then sustaining that point, 2 different skill sets.
Yeah.
One is like an entrepreneurial skill set. The other one's a managerial skill set. A lot of times within a business, the person who starts the business and makes it successful won't always be the person who carries on as the senior manager of that business long term. We hear about those people a lot, but they really are the exception to the rule. Yeah. Most people are the people that are good at taking a business from nothing up to success. That's a certain skill set, and then taking it beyond that and sustaining that success.
It's a totally different
skill set.
So why are we bringing this up? Are we only ever going to talk about YouTubers from now on? No.
No.
This is totally goes beyond the scope of entertainers. This is just in general, like, this is what people are saying that you have to do now, is like be internet famous. Like, you got to have 1 million likes on Facebook, and you have to have a blog that's getting 2,000 views a day. And like, there's just a bunch of baloney out there of people saying this is how you do it.
Right.
You have to get 100 rate and reviews, and you have to be on New and Noteworthy on your podcast. And just like, I hate to trash him too hard, but John Lee Dumas is selling a lot of this internet fame type stuff.
Right.
And I understand, like, I realize that too. Some of the stuff he's talking about is totally based on the idea of the little guy getting a small income, maybe $5,000 a month, based off of an online thing.
Right.
Like, he does talk about that a lot.
Okay.
But it's perceived as, you know, giant fame is coming your way.
Right. Like, that's just the beginning.
Yeah. If you just hustle enough, you'll be able to hustle enough people into giving you this income.
Right.
And that's not the way I think ever. I always think of all this stuff in this neo-agrarian type idea where you're just making a sustainable income from these things.
Right.
Which then you can turn around and create great wealth from by investing it in houses and whatever.
Right. So we talked about some books that don't really stand up universally, but I think one that really does is like Rich Dad Poor Dad, because it's so much more abstract. So, and to take some of these classical agrarian ideas and apply them, one of the classical agrarian ideas is producing more than you consume, making a lifestyle that produces more than it consumes. And if you focus on that as part of, as how you approach online business or whatever, that's going to create that sustainability.
Yeah.
So not just like, how many likes can I get? Well, that's great. That's part of the strategy maybe, but that is not the goal. That's not sustainable. And that's not actually producing anything.
Well, like, a lot of people would be like, if you do these certain hacks, like if you get 20 rate and reviews on iTunes and you get your podcast to the top of the chart,
right,
then you'll be on New and Noteworthy for 8 weeks, and you'll get so much traffic, and it'll be great for you. That's like a hack.
Right.
And a hack is not necessarily effective in actually building a business.
Right.
Like, a business means slow growth or quick growth that's maintainable.
Right.
And the growth isn't based off of you hacking stuff. It's off of you providing value.
Right.
True value, not just fluffed up value. Like, oh, if you trust me, you'll be famous. And then people trust you and they don't actually become famous.
Right.
So it's like, well,
not selling dreams, but selling real value.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of these guys talk about value and creating value, but they don't really understand. They're still not producing anything that somebody can walk away with. And I'm not even saying like a tangible asset, like a hard asset, but even like real knowledge. So maybe they teach you some hacks and then they're like, I'm providing value because here's a hack on how to do this. Well, that's not real value. That's just very, that has short-term value, because a hack really only has short-term value.
Right.
But the other
it gets you in front of people, but that's
right.
it.
Then you've got to actually provide value to stay there. So if it's just a hack trying to sustain a hack, that's not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, that's why I do
it's
really
like a pyramid scheme.
Oh yeah,
basically.
It kind of is. That's why I do appreciate Robert Kiyosaki, is because if you go beyond his first book and you get into the rest of his books, you really start to dive into like a lot of the mistakes he's made along the way. He talks about his Velcro company and how he didn't really feel like there was enough value in that.
Right.
And he realized that wasn't providing the value. It got me rich really quick, but then I lost all my money.
Right, because it was a hack.
Because it was a hack. Yeah, exactly. It was a hack where he was actually selling a tangible object.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, not like...
Just walk down that as seen on TV aisle, and you'll know that things you can hold in your hand can still be hacks.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what most of that crap is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what he was working in at the time.
Yeah, and his his rich dad told him, like, I don't see this going somewhere, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I honestly, if you want to see somebody that's actually been through the ringer and has done this stuff, you should really invest in Robert Kiyosaki's books.
Yep.
We'll have links to those as well.
He's also got a podcast that's really good.
I enjoy it.
Really, you have to listen to at least Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Cash Flow Quadrant. Those are like basically his first two.
Those are prereqs to the podcast.
Yeah, or else you're not really going to understand what he's talking about. And he's almost kind of cynical at this point in time.
Yeah.
Just because of everything he's been through and all the people that have come to him the same way that he came to his rich dad over the years and just won't listen.
Yeah.
Some people don't learn their lessons like he eventually did. And it just, his personality, he's become cynical over time.
Yeah.
So if you don't really understand the basis, you're not really going to get what's going on in the podcast. So, but Rich Dad, Poor Dad is one of those books where I don't even remember how I thought about those things before the book. Like, it so changed the way, like, my worldview that I don't even remember what my worldview about that stuff was before that book.
I read Millionaire Mindset right before Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Okay.
And Millionaire Mindset, it talks about how poor people have a certain mindset that produces poverty, basically.
Right.
And people that are thinking in the way of, like, wealth, they have a mindset that produces money. Income. Like, they make decisions that produce more money than less money.
Right.
Because of that book, it kind of taught me what right and wrong. And so then when I jumped into Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I kind of have an idea, I guess is what I'm saying, of how I thought before.
Right.
But
okay.
But if you want to know how,
forced to analyze that.
I was forced, yeah.
Right. Okay.
So that's another one. Man, we got all kinds of books in this episode.
There's a series of books, man, but they're the same ones that have been on the Indie Intellect resource page since we first put up the blog.
Yep. Because they're essential. They're essential, great books.
4-Hour Workweek really is too for anybody doing internet business. I feel like 4-Hour Workweek is to internet business what E-Myth is to brick and mortar.
Yeah.
I feel like those are the two. That's like the diverging point.
And I think you should read both so you have a good understanding of both realms, because that's where we're stepping into. Right? Everything is going to be sold online in the future. Mm-hmm. Everything still needs to be made somewhere. Right. And one of the things people forget is that, like, a YouTube channel, people think a YouTube channel isn't selling anything. But really, entertainment people, they're selling stuff. That's their whole purpose, is to sell objects. So no matter what industry you're in, whether it's entertainment or selling coffee or selling homes, you're somehow going to be related to one of these industries.
That's right. We've been talking about these guys a lot lately, but Hack 5, they keep their YouTube channel going, and their whole business, the majority of their business is funded off of them selling physical products. Yeah. Most of them that they've developed in-house, some that they resell. Right. There's a few, some they've developed in-house, a lot they resell. But their biggest sellers, the ones they've developed in-house. Okay. But, yeah, so that's true, because, like, they operate a warehouse. They operate a fulfillment service, basically. Yeah. They operate manufacturing and fulfillment services for themselves. That's definitely E-Myth stuff. Yeah. Because they operate it in their own, they don't manufacture in their own facility. They prototype in their own facility.
There's still a lot of hustling there.
Yeah, and they do fulfillment in their own facility.
Yeah, if you don't know how to hustle that stuff, you'll eventually be over your head.
Right, and that's where E-Myth comes in. It teaches you how to systematize those processes.
Yeah. Yeah, systems is basically what both those things do.
Exactly.
You could look at a farm or a blacksmith from, agrarian age and be like, okay, they had systems as well. Right. They had a system of having somebody come in and work with them and blah, blah, all this stuff.
Apprenticeship and the whole.
Yeah. What the problem with today is we have people that don't know anything about systems quitting their job thinking, I'm going to invest in myself. They have no idea what a system is. Right. And then by, month 6, they're bankrupt and they're going back to their job, begging
or they're
for
buried
their job back.
Or the opposite happens and they're so buried in work that but they're still profitable, but they're still buried in work. They don't have a life.
I heard of a coffee company here in New Mexico that went. They didn't go bankrupt, but they closed their doors because they had too much success.
Yeah, I've seen businesses do that.
Yeah,
I've known business people to do that.
Yeah, it's just like they got too much work. They can't handle it. They got to close the doors.
Right.
Okay. So have we talked about what agrarianism is?
Yeah, we've pretty much run through Neo-Agrarianism at this point.
Yeah.
So to summarize, Neo-Agrarianism is a sustainable business in the information age. It is a sustainable way of looking at the world and your finances, your family, possibly.
Big part of it is your lifestyle.
Your lifestyle, right. It's because of the way that things are shifting economically, sociologically, this is where we're going back to.
Yeah.
People have clumped up in cities for the industrial age. Yeah. And now they're dispersing again, oftentimes for health reasons.
Let's go. Let's actually, before we move on, let's just talk about some of the reasons why we're going out of, which you just mentioned a few of them. We're going out of the industrial age. One, people are getting out of the industrial age because they're getting fired.
Right.
Jobs are going to different countries. Mm-hmm. Okay. One is health reasons. Right. Family reasons. People want to be with their family. They're tired of having two different lives. Yeah. Their work life and their home life.
Right.
Some people see a problem with that. I'm one of them. I think you shouldn't have a work life and a home life. I think you should have a life.
Right.
And they all mesh together.
Holistic
life. There we go. Yeah, that's the key word. So those are the reasons why we're moving out of this. Sometimes it's forced. So I'm saying if you are like, well, I don't really care about that. I like having a job and then having my home life separated. I'm telling you right now, if you don't listen to us, you might end up without a choice. Yeah. Right. You're not going to have your job forever. Possibly.
Yeah, it could happen.
Goodness.
So many things.
Like everything is being affected by this. Right. Writers, writers, they're always going to need to write good English. Yeah, but there's a million writers and photographers. So even like the electronic and the media stuff there's millions of people that can do. Anybody can make a YouTube channel, which is basically a high production video thing. Mm-hmm. So everything is at risk now.
Yeah, it really is.
What industry you're in, you're going to be forced into this eventually.
Right. So it's good to just start thinking smart about it. So
I just did doom and gloom on that one.
You did, man.
All right, so
I'm kind of scared now.
You should be scared. You should probably be an entrepreneur. You should probably get out of that 9 to 5, man.
Okay, I will.
All right. We're going to go to a break, and when we come back from that break, we are going to talk about Neo-Renaissance. Hey guys, me and Joel talk a lot of different books on the podcast, and each one of these books has been essential for us and our growth as business people and as online entertainers and as community builders. So for a list of these books that we've read and that we think are super essential, go to IndieIntellect.com/BWR. That's for books we read. So IndieIntellect.com/BWR. That's where we've got a list of books that we've read and things that authors that we really appreciate, including Robert Kiyosaki, Seth Godin, Pat Flynn, just some really great authors and have been super valuable. And if you don't know anything about those guys, just look up their names and you will find awesome resources. I hope you can find some value in these books, and we'll talk to you guys later.
And we're back. So the other side of the coin from work and lifestyle, Neo-Agrarianism is what we're calling it, is ideas, right? Ideas move rapidly now.
Yeah, they're calling this the information age.
Right, exactly. And it's in our opinion, we've talked about this, we believe it's even beyond the information age. Because information is so readily available now, it's not even a currency. It's like dirt's not a currency because it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Ideas really are everywhere, and there's tons of great ideas that aren't going nowhere.
Right. But then there's some ideas that are really going somewhere. Mm-hmm. And classically, when people think of the idea explosion, it was the Renaissance period. Mm-hmm. With the artists and inventors of that period, mm-hmm. and the way that they were sharing. They were coming together in certain areas geographically and sharing this knowledge and sharing this expertise and just the passion for the whole thing. That was part of it. It wasn't just like, hey, ideas, we're robots churning out new ideas. No, there was art and passion, and it was, here's this word again, holistic. You know, it was like humanity reinventing itself through community and ideas and a passion for it all.
For sure. So the Renaissance, like we talk about the agrarian age, the industrial age, and the age that we're in today, right? Those ages, the agrarian age included everything since the flood, you know, to what, like 1000 BC or ECD, whatever it's called, 80. Golly, I don't know what year it is. Let me start that one over again. So, like, the agrarian age was, like, from Noah's flood till, like, 1,000, 2,000 years ago.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Wow, really? They're kicked out of the garden. Got to work the land.
Not 2,000 years ago. Yeah, but the industrial age, kicked out of the garden till only, like, maybe 1,000 years ago.
Right.
We started doing, basically, the industrial age. So, the industrial age is really this, like, crazy... It's the precursor to where we're at today.
Right.
Which is the second. So, I mean, like, when right now...
Well, the Renaissance did happen in the middle of that, though.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what I'm saying is the Renaissance isn't really a part of an age. It's just a thing that happened during an age.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And it was geographically constrained, too, like we had talked about. So,
yeah.
There were definitely people living in there's still people living in an agrarian lifestyle that have never changed. So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But basically, the whole world was working on agrarian before the industrial age came along.
Right.
You could say China had its own industrial age for a little bit, and then got, changed before you could go anywhere with it.
Right.
But today we're in an industrial age, and we're moving out of that industrial age to something that is a little bit crazier, which is like the information age.
Right.
Which is also starting this kind of what we think is like a Neo-Agrarian. Neo-Renaissance.
Right.
The next
ideas
Renaissance.
Are spreading.
I would say we're in the third Renaissance since the first Renaissance. Because I think right before the Industrial Age, we had our own little Renaissance then too.
Right.
Like Benjamin Franklin,
right,
and Edison and all those guys. I mean, those are all Renaissance men.
Yeah, they really were. I mean, up till that point, it was the thinking was very feudal. It was very much like, these are the lords over us, and we are their slaves, and we do their bidding. And breaking out of that mindset was the thing that allowed the Industrial Revolution to even, like, without that, it would have never happened.
Yeah, the American Revolution, the French Revolution, the, those things, those are a part of their own Renaissance, basically.
It's
Those
true.
people are thinking outside the box to create what we have today.
Right.
But earlier we were talking about it, and you were saying like patents and copyrights sparked the industrial age, basically.
Yes, I would say so.
And you were saying,
I could argue that.
Now, I've heard this argument, and I believe it too. I believe that when you protect people's rights to make money off of their inventions, you create this incentive to make inventions, right?
Right.
And the reason why we brought this up is because I was saying I don't believe that anymore.
Right.
So here's my theory.
Okay, drop it.
Here's the thing. In an age when everyone is afraid to step out on their own, what they'll do is they'll take a patent, they'll get it patented, and then they'll hold on to it because they don't know what to do with it.
Okay.
So we live in an age where people are constantly patenting things that could help millions of people, but then doing nothing with them.
Okay.
So I feel like patents today are holding back advancements.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And even and then that's the little guy, but what about the big guy? I believe the big guys are also creating patents to keep other people from doing things.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. Any system is going to be two-edged sword.
Right.
There's no we're not perfect, so we cannot create a perfect system. But without some form of intellectual property law, it wouldn't be advantageous for people to create. I mean, sure, if Karl Marx was right and people were also perfect and everything was utopian and man's heart was utopian, that's really the linchpin of that whole thing, then yeah, I could see intellectual property being completely non-essential and something, like open source. I love open source.
Yeah.
When it comes to software and stuff like that, but it can only go so far.
Well,
really
and sometimes open source is really hard for the people that are keeping it open to sustain.
Right, exactly. Past a certain level of complexity, your open source software really, really falls behind your commercial equivalents. But up to that certain point of complexity, open source is typically much, much better. So there's like a tipping point for it. And I think that's really kind of indicative of intellectual property as a whole. So up to a point, intellectual property really, really helps to advance ideas being created and spread because people feel like they can protect it. They feel like it's worth their time to actually come up with this stuff. They'll spend the time trying to do it. It betters humanity. But then past a point, it becomes this gridlock where companies, patents are extremely valuable if things catch on. So companies try to guard that, and you end up with a corporate culture that starts to push the other direction.
Yeah, it's like
get the benefits.
They're in the business of patenting things. Now, I'm thinking of an example, and I don't know how true it is or any of the facts, but like there were certain technologies for electricity that would have advanced electricity, but they weren't very profitable.
Right.
So I believe it was Edison was like, hey, let's not invest our time and energy into that, our man energy,
right?
Because it's not going to make us profits.
Like
so let's
3-phase AC.
Sure. You know more about this than I do.
Yeah. So Thomas Edison's he built out these electrical systems to provide power to people, and people had lights. It was great. It really was part of the Industrial Revolution. But Tesla came around. Tesla's the internet's darling now. Fun fact: me and Tesla have the same birthday.
Oh, good job.
Yeah. But he came and he started to work for Edison because he's like, this guy's awesome. This guy's changing the world, and I've got some ideas I think this guy would like. So he came over here from Europe. He was broke. He started working for Edison. He came up with alternating current, and he had these ideas, and he brought it to Edison, and Edison's like, sorry, we already spent the money to make DC. Too bad. We're not going to do this.
Right.
And so Tesla eventually was like, okay, this guy is just way more concerned with making money than bettering humanity and really doing something new and advancing the science. So he left, and big blow up, whatever. And then he started pursuing AC, alternating current. And he actually, the one thing that was causing alternating current to not be a viable option was because the motors that turned in factories ran off of DC, and nobody had invented an alternating current motor yet that would work.
Right.
He dreamed it.
He dreamed it?
He dreamed it. Woke up and invented what he saw in his dream, and it worked.
That's awesome.
And now we have alternating current because of a dream that Nikola Tesla had.
That guy's a genius.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so profits sometimes get in the way of advancement, and so that thing happened then. What about today? There's probably...
The story's not over yet.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, this is where it gets good. Okay, so there was a
Renaissance man, speaking of.
No. Okay, so there was a big push by Edison against this alternating current once it started to come out. He started to demonize it. That's why we got the electric chair.
That's true. I did hear about that.
Because he talked them into using alternating current for the electric chair to kill people, so people would be afraid of it and they wouldn't switch over to this competing system.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to drop on you.
Did you know that Tesla used to go on stage and have like hundreds? Hundreds of volts,
like
volts
just
alternating
sparks
current
off of his hands and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that probably wasn't good for him.
No, probably not. But that's how he battled the armchair, is by electrocuting himself on stage.
That would be some crazy stuff to witness.
I know. Imagine. I mean, that's
didn't have video. Why didn't he just invent video cameras before that?
Yeah, Edison invented it. Tesla. Video camera. So. So that was the problem. Propaganda was in the wrong place. Dang it. But I mean, imagine being on that. If you didn't believe in a deity, you would be looking at that guy and be like, "Wow, maybe there is a God." Because that's like epic, epic story style stuff, right?
It's like, oh my gosh, this is biblical proportions. It's happening in front of my eyes right now. Well, really, to rabbit trail a little bit on this because it's kind of fun. Electricity really got equated with magic a lot.
Oh yeah,
as kind of a thing, and culturally, and also with sexuality. Electricity and sexuality were intertwined for a long time because of the mysticism around electricity. Yeah,
it could not have been good for people.
There was some weird stuff that people were into at that point.
Okay, well,
we'll leave it there. You can Google that one or not,
or don't. Not at work. Not safe for work.
What would they call it? The Electric Lady or something like that? Okay.
Oh, goodness.
Now I got to start looking this up.
I don't know.
Okay. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
What was I going to say? That looks like an 80s movie.
Okay, this is not what I was thinking.
That looks like a musical. Sorry for that rabbit trail. I'm sure you enjoyed it as much as we did, though. So, no. What was I going to say? Oh, okay. So... Okay, yeah, there's the demon is the big companies oppressing people. But before then, it was governments oppressing people. So it's like, what do you the trade-off here is one or the other. So my thing that I want to say is I believe this is a call to action for people. Okay?
Okay.
Because too many people are spending so much time and energy in the wrong places.
Right.
There are tons of things that you can bring to the market that have super value. And you just have to get a patent and then bring it to the world because somebody will be able to build it for you. We live in a time where if you can dream it, you can have it made for probably under $100.
Right.
Maybe it's going to cost you $4,000 to get it made. I know a guy that made this really amazing coffee press. It's like an espresso machine, but way better than espresso. It's like it's like cold brew and espresso mixed together.
Wow.
And he can make, I think, a gallon at a time. So, like, in 20 minutes, you can have a gallon of this stuff made.
I would seriously overdose on coffee.
Oh, I know. So, he made this thing. It's really awesome. That's an invention that I want made.
Right.
And I think it cost him $4,000 to get
it made.
To get it made.
Wow, that's nothing.
Yeah. Maybe it was 10. But still. The investment for that thing, because, like, that's going to sell. People love that. Right now, for people that don't know, coffee revolution, if you want to call it that. There's tons of coffee machines being made right now, and people are buying them because people love to experiment with how they can get flavors out of coffee. So, I mean, that's coffee, but like there's, in Chile, when the miners got stuck in the ground, they sent them things down the chute to help them.
Right.
And a lot of those things that were being sent down that chute were all these like tiny little inventions that people were making a ton of money off of. One was copper-laced socks, I believe, because copper would fight off the infections.
Right. Fight off bacteria. Lululemon puts it in their clothes.
Who's Lululemon?
Lululemon's like a really fancy brand of yoga and workout clothes.
Oh, okay. So they put copper in.
No, it's silver.
Silver. Silver's super good for you.
Right. And it kills the bacteria in the clothes, so you can work out and not stink.
Oh, that's cool. So you can let out those pheromones and actually smell good. Because the reason why pheromones don't smell good is because they leach out of you, and then bacteria eats them and it stinks.
Darn bacteria.
So stinky, sweating people can now smell good to people.
That doesn't sound like
that's probably not. That's not true at all.
Invented.
It's not true. But no, silver is an antibacterial. So like, you're saying you want to start a clothing line and be YouTube famous and have stupid shirts that people buy that are made out of regular 100% cotton. Like, to me, that's not providing value. That's providing maybe entertainment, which is value, and that's diving down this hole of I can be internet famous.
Right.
But you could take that energy, instead of making stupid 100% cotton shirts that say little dumb logos that you made up when you don't know how to say the word Christmas, you could do something more valuable and invent a shirt that doesn't let you get infected by stench.
Yeah, you can actually provide value to the world.
Yeah.
Selling somebody an overpriced T-shirt is not really providing value. Sure, you put a good in their hands, but you're not providing.
It's not the value that we talk about when
Right.
we talk about. When we talk about providing value, that's what we're really talking about.
Right.
We're not talking about entertainment value. I mean, that's valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not dissing anybody who's that's your goal.
Perfectly fine.
I mean, that's a lot of my goal too. But
there's a lot of entertainers out there.
Yeah.
If that's what the value you're trying to provide, well, the market's a little bit saturated. You got to do something to set yourself apart.
Yeah. I think of like people that are doing, health stuff. Like they're providing a value in a different way. Eventually that'll get saturated too, and they'll have to think outside the box. But they're providing a way bigger value than people that are just doing like, I don't know, smash cake in my face.
Right.
Which is cool.
But you got to do a little cake smashing too, though.
Yeah.
Just don't expect to get rich off it.
No, for sure. So anyway, we live in a time when there's enough information where you can find out about lace that threads. You can find out about new elements that are being created. They're not elements, but new materials that are being created that can create new energy sources. I know a kid that invented a new power source.
Wow.
This was his science project at high school.
Man.
He made it out of this metal that does this special thing when you heat it. And I was like, whoa, dude, you need to patent that. And I was filming it, and I told him I wasn't going to publish the film until he had it patented. And he's like, okay, good. And he was a little worried about me filming it. I was like, I won't publish this.
That's cool. As long as you give me 2% of everything.
Yeah, I'm going to blackmail you with this video here. But that's the deal. Like, this is a high school student. He looked up something. He thought of a purpose for it, and he made it happen, and he's creating a patent for it. And it could be a new type of turbine type of energy source. Right. Solar and turbine.
Gosh, man, that's so cool. I think the thing to take away from this whole conversation on Neo-Renaissance, is so many people think all the good ideas have been taken. And that is absolutely the wrong idea. Absolutely the wrong way to think about it. Because even right now, the simplest ideas are causing huge waves. We're in a situation where it is ripe for people with new ideas to execute on them. And the only difference between everybody's been like, oh, I had the idea for that. Those people stole my idea. Ideas are great, and this is the time for that. But even more so, it's the time for doing and for execution.
Yeah.
So you can have the greatest idea in the world. If somebody else actually does it, well, too bad. Too bad. When I watched the movie The Social Network, and I mean, they really set it up so you feel this way, but I still think I feel this way regardless of the movie and the script writing. How the Winklevoss twins were like suing Mark Zuckerberg over like, this was our idea, blah, 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 blah. Who's the dude that sat down at the keyboard for hours and knocked this thing out? They never gave him any money to do that. So how can they possibly call that theirs?
Yeah.
When all they did was like, dude, I got this idea. Let's get that guy to do it. Okay. That's not producing something. Mark Zuckerberg, no matter what you think of him now, I'm not super fond of the guy, but he's the guy that sat down at that keyboard. He put the hours in. He created the value.
Yeah.
Not a couple fancy looking dudes with sweaters slung over their shoulders just like, dude, check this out.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Mark Zuckerberg. You kind of brought it all back together. We talked about Neo-Agrarianism, Neo-Renaissance, Neo-Nazis. So all comes back together. No, just kidding. Mark, you're not a Nazi, and you're not listening to this either. So
yeah, so it doesn't really matter.
But yeah, man, good stuff. Yeah. That is the deal, guys. You got to take action.
Make the idea and take action.
Yep. All right, guys. I hope this was a motivating, cool, awesome conversation for you guys to listen to. And let us know what you think. Tell us your great ideas that you don't want anyone knowing about until you get it patented. If you want to do that, you can shoot us a link. Or not a link, but a tweet. My hashtag is my handle. Golly, I cannot talk.
Your handle on the CB?
On the CB is that...
Break.
Anyway, it's at Danotic, Danotick, and Yiddish.
And mine is at Yiddish, Yeddish, on Twitter and Instagram. And if you have So say you do have an idea and you're like, okay, I do have this idea. I'm not sure how to execute. I don't want you guys to rip me off, but I kind of need some help anyway. If you really need some help on this, let us know. We'll sign a non-disclosure, an NDA with you, and try to point you in the right direction if you want. I mean, we want to help people get this stuff taken care of. And you can find NDAs on the internet.
You know, and even if you just want to talk about how to market something, you don't exactly want to tell us what it is, we'd love to help you with that as well.
Yeah. If nothing else, we got good Google foo.
Yeah.
We'll see what we can figure out and shoot you some links if nothing else. So holler at us. It's okay.
I'm
not going to steal your ideas.
Nope.
But we'd love to work with people on some good ones if they're interested too.
Yeah, just tell us to do something. Don't pay us anything for doing it, and we'll do it for you, sure. No, just kidding. Just joking. But, all right, guys, thank you so much for listening to us, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
All righty.
Actually, we won't see you.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Indie Intellect Podcast with Joel and Daniel. Be sure to check out the show notes on the blog at indieintellect.com.